Bobby Beast here. I want to talk about a subject that comes to mind, and that is, why is Terry and Meech beefing? Now, if you look at the very first episode of BMF Season 4, you would think it's because of some sort of magic that caused Meech to live for them to have a conflict with one another. And if you really pay attention, that's truly the case. But truth be told, you're entering into an era in BMF where Terry and Meech were not so close. And what I mean by that is that, personally, I hope they do a spin-off series, because I don't believe they're going to finished everything right now with Season 4, even though it's been hinted that Season 4 is the last season due to the falling out with 50 Cent and Big Meech and Rick Ross and Little Meech and Terry Finnery. A lot of stuff is going on behind the scenes, and there's no confirmation on if this truly is the final season or if the next season or two, because I think it'll take maybe 2 more seasons to catch up all the way to the 2000s. But basically, when it comes down to it right now in BMF, they are in the 90s. So Def has been hinted at. They're letting you know the time era that they're in. We're getting into the time where Meech and Terry eventually ends up in LA and start doing business there. This also leads into the time where they start beefing with the cartel, which is one of the most legendary stories about the series. But at that time, even though they worked as a team, Meech and Terry did not get along with one another. And hell, as a matter of fact, spoiler alert for those of you who don't know about BMF history, if you don't want to hear what I'm about to say, it's probably going to spoil how things play out eventually over the next couple of seasons, if they do them, or this season, depending on how this one wraps up. But when it comes down to it, Meech and Terry in the later years of BMF, they had an agreement with one another where they worked with one another. They made money together and everything like that. But Terry did his own thing with his own crew, and Meech did his own thing with his own crew. And if you pay close attention to how things are set up in the premiere episode of Season 4, you see that separation where Terry wanted to run his own operation in his own way, and Meech wanted to run his own operation in his own way, where Terry was more militant and he was more serious, and a lot of people in Real Encounters will tell you Terry was the serious one, whereas Meech, even in everything about him with BMF, to Young Jeezy, to the people he met and was around, Meech was the, he liked to have a good time, he liked to chill, everybody relax, he didn't give a damn what you wear, he was just cool as hell. Now, if you cross him, that was a whole other story. But at the end of the day, between the two brothers, 2 different personalities and 2 different approaches, which is pretty much, if you're thinking it's just for a moment, that's not a moment. This eventually ends up turning on how things play out with BMF. Like, Terry and Meech do make agreements with one another. They do come together and work on businesses with one another. But at the end of the day, they do separate and do their own thing while working together distantly, but doing their own thing. So basically, when it comes down to it, why is Terry and Meech beefing? It's clear that the episode's trying to hint at the fact that, the magic, the voodoo, and all that good stuff like that probably is the reason. But truth be told, it's because Terry wants to run his own crew and do his own thing, and Meech want to run his crew and do his own thing. And pretty much it inevitably plays out that way between those two if they finish up the entire BMF storyline. Personally, I'd like to see them shift. They're in the 90s, the early 90s at that right now. So I would like to see them shift from the early 90s in this season, let it be about this early 90s arc, eventually start the arc that pretty much begins the end, because I think Season 5 should be the final season of BMF that tells the story of what happens from the 90s to the 2000s and the fall of BMF, and in the series that way. Whereas it shows maybe in the very last episode, the real Big Meech out of prison, the real Terry Finnery out of prison, and them eventually seeing the BMF show and ending the series that way. That would be the best way to do it. That would end the series on a high note, that these 2 brothers survived the life and that they're able to watch their story play out in front of them on TV. So that's something that would be cool too. But basically, that's pretty much what I got to say. Why is Terry and Meech beefing? It's because inevitably in the storyline, it plays out that way. But I just want to say to all of you that it is your boy Bobby Bees here. I just want to say much love, much respect. Hold it down. And